Hello again, boys and girls. It's Mr. Wasemann, and today, once again, we are continuing our extreme weather event presentations. I'm in my Google Slides template, and I'm on slide 10, which answers the question, do tsunamis happen in Indiana? And the answer is no. Since Indiana is located in the American Midwest and nowhere near the Pacific Ocean, a tsunami would not affect us here. So it then begs the question, so if tsunamis don't happen near us, why should we care? Well, that goes back to the purpose that most informational authors have when writing about such a topic of an extreme weather event, and that is to inform the reader on what to do in the event if they find themselves in a place where these happen. Just because we don't live near the Pacific Ocean doesn't mean that we will never visit an area near the Pacific Ocean, like, say, California or Japan or Australia. So if you find yourself in these situations, you need to be informed as to what to do. So that's where my notes from my essential question graphic organizer come in. I was asked to find at least 3 things to describe what to do in the event that you find yourself in a tsunami. And this is information I took directly from one of the websites I used. Follow the instructions issued by local authorities and evacuate when told. Get to higher ground and as far inland as you can, and stay out of a building if water remains around it. Tsunami waters can cause buildings to sink, floors to crack, or walls to collapse. Now, this is very useful information. And the temptation is to just take it directly as is and just drop it into my presentation. There's a couple problems with that. Now, first of all, some of what I wrote are not complete sentences. They're fragments that I lifted from the website. So I would need to retool them so that they read more smoothly and grammatically in sentence form. But the second thing is this. If I use work from another author and I take it word for word, I have to cite it and quote it and make sure that I tell the reader that I am using somebody else's information. If I take something from another author and try to pass it off as my own, that's called plagiarism. Okay, but students can get around this issue of plagiarism by rephrasing information that they find and putting it into their own words. Now, I can use the same informational facts and just rephrase it by writing it a little differently, and that skirts the issue of plagiarism. You still have to cite your references, which we will talk about more in a future video about how to cite your sources. But for today, I just want to talk about how I can take words and phrases from my writing, from my research, and when I incorporate it into my writing, it becomes something new. So I've already written some sentences here. Tsunami safety tips. It says, if you were to find yourself in a place where a tsunami was occurring, you should always follow the instructions of safety officials. Now, I took the approach that, as someone who lives in Indiana, I might be a visitor in a place where tsunamis occur. So if I ever find myself in a tsunami area, this is what I should do. It says, evacuate your area as soon as you're told. Now, that's a little bit different than the way it was explained here. Evacuate when told. Okay, so I put a little twist on it. Tsunamis happen very quickly. Seek higher ground to avoid floodwater. Avoid buildings that have already been flooded because they might not be structurally safe. Now, again, I took some of that information from the website and I retooled it. I took some parts out and I added some parts in to make it a little bit more of my own. Now what I need to do is be more proactive. So if I find myself in a tsunami, here's what I need to do. But how can I prepare for tsunami? They say that preparedness will help you avoid problems in the future. So what do I do if I know that I'm going to go to an area where tsunamis might occur? And again, I'm going to take the approach or the perspective of a visitor since I don't live in a place where tsunamis normally happen. I go back to my notes, and here's where an author will use a little discretion. Sometimes you get more information that you know what to do with, or so much information that in order to be an effective writer, you have to sort some things out or choose not to include things. So I have a bunch of things written down here. Have a disaster plan. Know whether you're at risk for danger. Plan an evacuation route. Plan a disaster supplies kit for your home and car. Include a first aid kit, canned food, and a can opener, bottled water, battery operated radio, flashlight, protective clothing, and written instructions on how to turn off electricity, gas, and water. Okay, that's a lot of information, and I don't have a lot of space here to include all that, so I need to pick and choose what I think would be useful for the reader, especially knowing my audience will be probably fourth graders who live in Indiana, nowhere near an ocean. So this is what I wrote. If you ever choose to visit an area that is prone to tsunamis, be sure to know where the local evacuation spots can be found. It's a little different than if you lived there. You would probably know already where are the high grounds, where are the places that are further inland. Have a bag of disaster supplies handy just in case you have to flee quickly, such as food, water, a flashlight, radio, and a change of clothes. I left out some parts and I put a spin on some of these things just to make it my own. So it gives the gist of what the research told me, but I now have written it in such a way that no one could claim plagiarism. So that's where we are right now. I have completed my 2 slides on safety and preparedness. Now it's your turn. Read through your notes. Describe to your reader, to the person who's going to be looking at your presentation, what would you do if you found yourself in a hurricane, a tornado, a flood, even though chances are your reader may never find themselves in this situation, but preparedness is always important. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. Otherwise, we will talk again soon. Thanks.